Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where it is that you live. I am really, truly looking forward to discussing the debut episode of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills with you guys. Just before we kick it off, I'm really curious how you felt about the premiere. Do you think we started off strong, ready to set us up for a really good season? Or do you think it's going to be like slow on the uptake? Make sure you let me know what it is that you think about that. My first note, like straight off the bat with everything here, is that I was quite surprised by how spicy Chrystal Minkoff actually was, you guys. Did that surprise any one of you guys as well? I kind of felt like she was giving me a little bit of like Sutton's debut season vibes as well, whereas Sutton kind of stayed a little bit more low-key this episode, which was really, quite interesting to me. I kind of think that Chrystal giving off Sutton vibes kind of explains why the two of them don't really get along that much as the season progresses. They always say that the people that are like most similar to you are the ones that you typically tend to kind of butt heads with the most. Hi, Jacqueline. Hi, Cocktails with Lovable Lisa and Cass Adams. It is so nice to have you guys here. I'm really, really looking forward to getting into the episode. One thing that's really cool, you guys, actually, is that the episode can actually be streamed in its entirety on the Bravo YouTube channel right about now if you haven't been able to watch it. So if you've not been able to, definitely give it a look over there. I'm going to have it like running in the background here and there. So in the first scene of the episode, Lisa Rinna visits Kyle as she recovers from her nose job. And Kyle's got like this big cast on her face, which you'll see over here, which reminds me of what I went through when I got mine done. But I'm telling you, just like Kyle said, you guys, it is like surprisingly easy. The recovery of something like this is surprisingly easy. It just feels like you have a cold and a lot of pressure in your nose or your rib as well. I had to get my rib, part of my rib taken out to put a bridge into my nose. So those were the two things that I was feeling. But for the most part, it was just fine. And so, I think that's something about Kyle that I'm going to be creeping on quite a bit throughout the episode because I'm like, I want to see how quickly she heals over here. It's not fair. If you've got thin skin, apparently it takes like 3 months or something like that. And then you've got pretty much your final results. Whereas thick skin, it's like 6 months to like a year to 18 months or something like that. So I'm going to be really curious to see how quickly it is that she recovers. Hey, Shan, nice to see you. Shan was on my channel the other week with Up and Adam. We always have so much fun together. So you guys, later on in the episode, the two scammers of the show, who are Dorit and Erika, they get into this car that neither one of them can actually even afford, right? Which we found out with Dorit in the earlier seasons that her and PK are kind of like on the grifter side of things. Let me show it to you right here. It's just popping up right about now. And then Erika, we're going to see a little bit later on in the episode that her husband had been stealing money from his clients in order to maintain that lifestyle for them. So to me, it was a little bit of a, oh my God, this is just so funny. Like the two, sketchiest money people are trying to show out the most as we kick this season off. So a little bit later on, we get to see Sutton and then Will Smith's ex-wife Sheree at Garcelle Beauvais' home. And, they talk a little bit about the beef that Garcelle has with Kyle. And then we also talk a little bit about, the general beef between Lisa Rinna and Garcelle as well, because Garcelle does not really appreciate the way that Lisa Rinna treated their friend Denise Richards. And then moving back to Erika and Dorit, they come over to the house where Rinna and Kyle are. And so they all talk about like how they want to plan a barbecue. And guys, I'm really curious how you feel about Mauricio, because I have to say, I don't know what it is, but I find him to be incredibly overrated. When I think of like really hot Real Housewives husband, I'm thinking of Juan Dixon. I'm thinking of Eddie as partially dead 1 year. Her husband was so hot. Those are the type of people that I'm thinking of when I think of like hot, like Real Housewives husband. And like Mauricio's just never been it for me, but like he is the holy grail somehow, some way in the entire Real Housewives universe. And I'm kind of curious, like, do you guys feel the same way? Is he a little bit overrated, or is it just like a vibe that I'm missing out on? So anyway, Dorit having an entire section of her house to transform into a school for her kids, which we get to see a little bit later on, was kind of like two things for me. It gave me like conflicting feelings. At first, I was like, okay, like this is amazing for her kids that they get this. But at the same time, it further highlights, you know, the widening educational gap between the poor and middle class and the rich that COVID has sort of created, you know, and sort of emphasized for all of us. Did you guys get that little panging in your feeling for the other kids who either have to share computers with like their siblings, or their internet isn't that fast at home, so they're not really able to do XYZ. Their parents aren't able to be around to help them with things because they're working. Like, did you guys get that little bit of a panging as well? Because I certainly did. Although I am happy for Dorit and her kids. I think that is the best use of money. You know, when you have money, is to put it into education for your kids rather than, you know, all of the designer stuff. So back in Garcelle land, she actually meets up to have lunch with Lisa Rinna to confront her about the way that she treated their mutual friend, Denise. And I was really happy to see Garcelle stick up for their friend because, you know, what she did to her was just awful. And like, I had even forgotten just like how bad the optics were for some of the things that Lisa Rinna had said to and about Denise Richards. So like seeing them in the playbacks, I was like, damn, Lisa truly was an actual bully to that woman. Like, it is sad, like, to imagine that they were friends for decades and this is the way that things went out just in the name of keeping a spot on a reality show, you know, on Lisa Rinna's side of things. You know, on her way there, Garcelle was on the phone with a friend and she's like, listen, I don't like Lisa Rinna right now, like at all. So I'm a little bit nervous about going in to see her. And so when they arrive at the restaurant, Lisa Rinna seemed incredibly shocked and like ready for Janelle to, you know, give her the lashing that she actually deserved for the way that she treated Denise. Like, she was just, you know, trying to launch into small talk with Garcelle. Garcelle was kind of like, you know, let's get straight to business. Then when they get straight to business, Lisa is immediately trying to like excuse herself and stuff. Like, it was really interesting watching Lisa Rinna sweat like that. I have a question for you guys, which was, why did you think that Lisa was sweating so hard? Like, why wouldn't she own her behavior towards Denise Richards? You know what I mean? I don't really understand. Like, she was really proud of herself at the time. So why kind of backpedal now with your tail between your legs? Was it because of all of the like backlash that she and the other girls got for the way that they treated Denise? I'm quite curious about it. Lauren says, you look gorgeous today. Thank you so much. Rinna is so mean, but I love the entertainment value that she brings. Exactly. That's how I felt about her too. She was very, very complicated to me in the way that she treated Lisa Vanderpump and the way that she treated Denise. Like, I get what she's trying to do from an entertainment value, but sometimes she could really let it go a little bit too deep, you know. And for me, I felt worse for Denise because she actually thought that they were friends, you know, of like, what was it, like 15, 20 years of friendships down the drain just like that. It made me so, so sad. But, you know, again, like she said, just like Lauren said, Lisa is thinking about entertainment value from the show. And I guess, you know, someone's got to be the sacrificial lamb in these things. Jacqueline says, I used to judge wealthy people who didn't send their kids to the best schools. Then I had my son and he moved to Long Beach, California to play drums in several punk bands. Not much I can do. You know, exactly. You really can't do much when like they grow up and follow like different passions and stuff. But while they're younger, why not expose them to the best possible things that you can afford to expose them to, both in school and outside of school, like real life learning, you know, like trips and this and that, like just all sorts of museums, education as much as possible. And like you said, you know, sometimes people will continue to go down the more intellectual route. Others will go down the more artsy route. Others will go down the more hands-on route. You really never can tell. But I think, you know, as long as you're passionate and knowledgeable in general, I don't think you did any, you know, I don't think you could say that you did anything wrong or wasted any kind of money, because whether or not they want to use it to do anything like super quote unquote white collar or anything doesn't really matter to me, so long as they already have the knowledge. You know what I mean? Allie, she says, Lisa is horrible and tried to be a Kris Jenner. I agreed. I completely agree. The fact that she allows her daughter Amelia to go out with that old man with all those kids, and she's like, what, 18, 19 years old, says everything you need to know about her desperation for fame. Jeslyn loved Garcelle on episode 1. She really brought it, didn't she? Because she was quite quiet. Cocktails with Lovable Lisa says the same thing. She was quite quiet last season, but this season, she really started off strong, and I am quite happy to see it. So, after the little discussion over there, let's wrap this up with Lisa's quote. She said, listen, Garcelle, hurt people. So I apologize for what it was that I did to Denise, but I was hurting at the time. Wouldn't it have been nice to have known what she meant by that at the time? Because I don't remember Lisa ever really opening up about anything that she personally had going on in her own life. So what does she mean when she says that she was hurting at the time? And maybe Garcelle could have asked, well, instead of dogpiling on Denise, why couldn't you have told us about what was going on in your life so that we could have been able to support you through whatever it was? Was Harry running away to Canada again? Allegedly, of course, because as your girlfriends, we would want to know, right? Ali also says, I feel like Lisa is already up to her old tricks. Yep. And is twisting Garcelle's words. I think she's a snake. She is definitely not going to stay loyal to any single one of those girls. She is ready to throw any of them under the bus at any point. And it's interesting to see who does and doesn't know that. So far, we already know that Garcelle knows that, but someone else is going to reveal themselves as knowing that a little bit later on in the episode. So, by the way, when Garcelle asked Lisa why she was so invested in Denise, when it had nothing to do with her, Lisa was like, I just wanted her to be honest and blah, blah, blah. Garcelle is like, again, why? It has literally nothing to do with you. And then she tells Lisa that she's scared that she is going to backstab her the same way that she did to Denise. And then Lisa tries to kind of like back her way out of it by claiming that, her friendship with Garcelle is longer than hers was with Denise. And Garcelle's like, I don't know about that, but either way, you had a long-standing friendship, and this is what you did to it. And so, I can't really support you. Ali says, what was Lisa hurting from? A bad dye job. LOL. I always suspected her hair was a wig. Is it a wig, you guys, or does she just cut it like that way, like the Christmas tree haircut? I really, really want to know, because I personally thought it was a wig. So if it was a bad dye job, wow, I didn't notice. Shannon Van says, Mauricio, in response to him, totally overrated, and he always seems stoned. That's the thing to me too. Like, his eyes are always like glazed over. He's never like stand up, strong, like, present, like, you know what I mean? Like a nice, strong presence. That's what I like in a guy. But he's always like, oh, like, what are you guys doing today, bros? Well, you know what I mean? And I really cannot stand that. And he's not very well-groomed, in my opinion, either. And that's another thing that I really don't like in men. So I don't get the Mauricio love, but different strokes for different folks. You can count me and Shan out of it, you guys, though. One thing that was really nice to hear was Lisa Rinna admit, like, she threw it out herself. No one told her this, but she's like, you know what? I was being a C-U-N-T. And Garcelle said, you know what? I don't even like that word, but I am not going to disagree with you there. And she tells Lisa that she is going to tread lightly when it comes to her, because she does not trust her at this point. And then we see a little bit inside of Erika Jayne's closet just before it gets repoed, when they give all the stuff back to the widows and orphans that she and her husband allegedly stole it from, right? And so, they're all in there trying to organize her clothes. Like, the basics go here, the luxe stuff goes there. We're taking diamonds out of the vault. It's really interesting to watch them emphasize all of this stuff. And then, as the season progresses, we're going to find out how exactly they were able to afford all of this stuff. And it is really sad. Did it change like your view of like Erika's glam? Because when Erika first arrived, her glam to me was like, wow, because we didn't even have Dorit back then. And like nobody was doing it like this. So she came, she had a glam team, and like it was always so interesting and cool and like almost like twinkle in your eye, like admirable, like, if for lack of a better word. But now watching them go through all of this stuff, knowing like the pain that people had to go through for them to be able to have all of this stuff, just left a really sour taste in my mouth. I felt really kind of grossed out about the whole thing. I do have to say, sorry. So Danielle says, so let Mauricio be stoned when he's home and relaxing. He works hard, has a lot of business dealings. And so when he's not doing some family and charity, he wants to unwind. Hashtag leave Mauricio alone. Fair enough. Fair enough. You can always stay out of my hair then. But yeah, it's just, personal preference. To me, I don't like that. I'm not really into the whole kind of like drugged out kind of look. Personal preference, but different strokes for different folks, for sure. So Shan says, Lisa will say whatever she can at the start of the season to take the focus off of her. She will wait a couple of episodes, before she starts sticking her nose in the other ladies' lives, for sure. Yeah, it reminds me of, the were people doing coke in your bathroom thing that she did to Dorit. Am I on Clubhouse? No, I don't have an invite. If someone has an invite, let me know. I'm kind of like on the outside looking in. Lauren says, I'm not surprised at all about Erika's situation. It's all too common for these rich people to be stealing from their clients. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's so sad that these people have enough money to live a decently rich life, but they want this kind of crazy level of rich life that unfortunately, goes way, way, way too far. I can't imagine having things and knowing that people who lost their family, were depending on me to get the money back and justice and everything are without. I don't know how they did it. I miss Lisa Vanderpump. Tiffany says this cast is so evil. I agree. I miss her. And the swings, the quirky dogs, the everything. Absolutely amazing. So you guys, going back into Dorit, so she visits Garcelle at the house, and I have to say, I love Garcelle, but I want to know, is she pushing this beef with Kyle Richards too much? Because on Kyle's side, she never really, in my opinion, until she called Garcelle out for allegedly not paying this donation that she promised to pay, I never saw Kyle doing anything towards Garcelle. And then Garcelle was always complaining about being overlooked by Kyle or this or that. And then this season, earlier on, all Kyle said about Garcelle was that she unfollowed her, and that was something that made her sad. And then when Dorit goes to Garcelle's house, what does Garcelle say? I've got 2 fish in this aquarium. This one is named Dorit because it's all sparkly and fly. The plain goldfish is named Kyle because it is basic and forgettable or whatever it was. Why does she need to, I get that she's upset about the charity thing, but I would have thought that they had hashed it out by then. So I'm kind of curious, do you guys feel like Garcelle is kind of pushing for a beef with Kyle the way that, sometimes newbies push for a beef with an OG on different TV shows? I kind of feel like, for example, in Housewives of Atlanta, Drew and Kenya sort of a thing. Is that the vibe that you guys are getting or no? None your business says, Erika mentioned that Tom doesn't let her buy her own jewelry. Yeah, I remember that. She would always have to call. So he controlled her money too. He has control of everything financial. Abso-freaking-lutely. But it is also worth noting that it came out in the court document, and Erika's about to be sued herself actually because of this. He was funneling hundreds of thousands of dollars to her bank account as well. So she is very much implicated in a lot of these dealings. Maybe she wasn't allowed to touch it once it was in her bank accounts and stuff like that, like these business accounts that she was creating. Maybe they were just kind of fake in order to house the money. I don't know. But yeah, it's really sad what's gone on with the both of them. She also says, it's weird how in past seasons, she's the only one who had to give him her money so she could ask for it. Maybe he has a thing for her being a child. Ooh, I don't know. One thing I will say though is the way that Tom used to talk to Erika, kind of scold her like a child. I used to say he used to scold her like a stray dog on the street. Remember when they would have dinners with Lisa Rinna, he'd be like, Erika, I'm talking. No talking. I'd be like, is that your wife or is that your damn dog? I don't know. Another thing about Garcelle, though, is I kind of wish that she would step it up with her fashions a little bit, because the outfit she was wearing when Dorit came by was an outfit that Dorit wore 2-3 seasons ago. First of all the hair clips, Dorit did that years ago. Then the Chanel thing, that was already done by Dorit and Erika. She's always at least a season behind in terms of fashion. And and she's so beautiful, right? She used to be a model for hell's sake. So I would love to see her kind of step it up again. But then later on, we get to see Lisa Rinna and Kyle Richards go over to Chrystal Minkoff's house. And I have to say, you guys, I was surprised by 2 things by Chrystal. Number one, her Valley girl voice. I thought she would just have like a regular voice, kind of like the rest of the girls, but her Valley girl voice was so like long and then like so like drawn out and stuff like that. It was very, very like sturdy. And like when she was like, I'm from the Valley, I was like, oh yeah, I could hear that. You know what I mean? Another thing was that she was so tall. I think she said she's almost 5'10" or 5'11". In the photos that they would all take together, they were all like about the same size to me, with the exception of Erika, Jane, and Garcelle Beauvais. I know that they're taller women. So I was always like, oh my God, she photographs much shorter than she is, which is funny because it's usually the reverse that is true. It's that people photograph taller than they actually are in person. So I was quite interested to see that. And it makes me quite happy. I'm like, yes, tall girl representation. I'm only 5'6", but I want to see more tall people in TV, damn it. Nestea says, yes, Garcelle needs to keep that energy for Lisa Rinna. Kyle really isn't checking for her like that. Absolutely. And with Lisa Rinna, at least it would make a lot more sense. Like she has a vendetta against her. With the whole Kyle thing, it's a little bit tired. It truly, truly is. Danielle says, totally playing. Oh, but I got you. Not your taste. Love watching your videos. Thanks for all the tea. Okay, good. I was like, no. Garcelle grounds the show. She absolutely does. I have always felt the fake and mean girl, so it's nice for a sincere, genuine woman. I completely agree. Not everyone needs to be like a shark, like go after everybody at any cost. Garcelle to me strikes me as the type of person who can take or leave this show because she's got a very successful career as an actress. And she's also a daytime talk show host on like a daytime, Emmy winning television show. So she really is just fine. She doesn't need to backstab people. Lisa Rinna, I always thought always had something going for her, a lot of success, but like just the way that she hangs on to the show for dear life, like she's got nothing else going on outside of QVC, makes me quite sad for her because I think it's a little bit embarrassing at the end of the day. And the way she's always pushing those kids on us. I don't want to talk about them because they're only like 2019 or something like that, 18. But I don't know. It's a little bit like fetch to me. I don't know. I think she tries really hard with them. Ali says, no one really has check Lisa and she needs it desperately. Exactly. They all seem scared of her. The only person I've seen kind of go toe to toe with her when she needed to was Dorit, but that was very, very, very short-lived, unfortunately. She also says, no one has really checked Lisa and she needs it desperately. No, I'm the same way. Sometimes it's just a little bit tougher than others to get it in writing very, very quickly. No worries. So guys, what was your first impression of Chrystal Minkoff? And did you think that Lisa Rinna was shading her? Because something that stuck out to me when Lisa Rinna described her was that, there's a lot of name dropping, but it's fine or something like that. Like, was that like nice nasty over there? Or did Lisa Rinna find her a little bit tacky for all of the name dropping? And another question now that I'm seeing her husband on screen that I have for you guys is, how much older than her is her husband? Because they never explicitly said, but Kyle remarked about it. She's like, well, Erika and Tom are like 35 years apart. And like, I get it. So I was like, okay, well, what's the age difference between Chrystal and this man? Because to me, they don't look that far apart in age, the same way that Erika looks like she's married to her grandfather. You know what I mean? Did anyone catch on to that? Or does anyone kind of like know outside of the show? That was quite curious to me. And I want to get into it a little bit later, but I said earlier in the episode that I find Chrystal to be very spicy, which is good. But sometimes I find her just a little bit condescending at the same time too, which is not, what I would consider to be very likable. Like I hope that she kind of toes the line between the two of those things. So now heading back into the conversations between Dorit and Garcelle, I'm curious. So earlier, this is what I was hinting at. Garcelle already said that she doesn't trust Lisa Rinna. And then I hinted at someone else saying the same thing. It was actually Dorit. She told Garcelle that she understood her hesitancy to trust Lisa Rinna because she was in that place after Lisa Rinna accused her of having a coke den on television, right? And so Garcelle goes, well, do you trust her now? What does Dorit say? She says, yeah, but she hesitates. And so Garcelle points that out and asks again, do you trust her now? And then what did Dorit really say? Let me look at my notes, but I don't remember her really saying that that she trusts her. She kind of seemed like, she kind of laughed to get out of answering the question. So let's see. Ali says, Shan, I was ready for it. When her husband wore that Halloween costume, she needs to be red. Oh my God. That day is coming, you guys. Don't worry. Karma might be slow sometimes, but it never misses. It is absolutely going to happen. So again, with the Chrystal Minkoff thing, you guys, Dorit has her barbecue. And first of all, Dorit's children dragged her like nobody's business. First of all, Jagger was really, really cute this episode. At first, he wanted to be carried down the stairs. And then when Dorit said no, he's like, well, I guess you're not getting any more hugs and kisses. I was like, that's so freaking cute. But then she puts on this really, really beautiful gown, which I'm going to show you guys over here. And what does Jaggy say? He tells her, listen, Mom, get down over here to my level so I could whisper in your ear. I don't want to embarrass you, but you don't look that good. Here he is, like, come over here, come over here. He just want to embarrass her. What a gentleman. You don't look that good. And then later she's heading down. She sees her daughter. What does her daughter say to her? You know, your boobs are showing, so why are you wearing that? This poor woman could not catch a break, and it was so funny. I really love seeing them interact, you know, with their kids, especially when they have like really young kids. Like in the preteen to teen age, the kids get a little bit like, you know, we were all like that. You get that little attitude, which I don't love watching as much. It's just like the innocent, like, you know, young kid moments. So she has this barbecue. That is not at all a barbecue. It is a black tie. Why don't they ever say like I'm having like a cocktail party or like, you know what I mean? Like an apéro or something like that. Just don't call it a barbecue because like someone asked, is there going to be like ribs? Is there going to be burgers? Because that is what a barbecue is. Okay, so let's see. Ali, I meant the age difference between Chrystal Minkoff and her husband was the one that it all kind of seemed like, what are you remarking about? Because to me, they looked about the same kind of age range. And then Chrystal mentioned meeting him when she was 20 years old. So I was like, okay, that seems fair enough to me as well. So guys, I have a very serious question for you. Kathy Hilton, before I even get into this question, because, you know, I don't want people to think that I don't like her or something like that. I like Kathy and I was really looking forward to her joining it. But is she slow? Because on the way to the BBQ, she goes, is there going to be food there? And then when Garcelle walks in, she's standing face to face with Kathy Hilton, like less than 6 feet away from her. And Kathy goes, oh, I thought you were my sister Kyle. Really? Like, really? You know, I really had to wonder what was going on with this woman because it was very, very odd. You know, it wasn't even funny. It was just kind of like odd, you know, and then the way they laugh about it as well, to me was very like, not sure how I feel about that. And then going into how spicy Chrystal was and how she's kind of towing the line a little bit, she makes a comment about how, you know, like in Beverly Hills, like you kind of know people through people. And if, you know, we don't know you, like her, I guess, then you're not really worth knowing. And then the producer asks her, well, do you know Dorit? And she goes, no. Well, Dorit doesn't know you either. And she's on Bravo. She's on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, a show that you're trying to get on. So like for you to kind of try to put yourself on a pedestal above her, I don't know. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't really sit right with me. And then again, you married an allegedly much older man who is like, you know, a famous producer or whatever. So the fact that you're rubbing shoulders with people off the strength of being his wife and then trying to look down on other people, that also doesn't sit right with me. Ali is saying that Chrystal is 35. He is 58. Thank you so much. So that is 45, 55, a difference of what, like 23 years. So, and not that I'm judging that. No, not at all. It's just that you're using that to look down on other people. And that just doesn't sit right with me at all. I'm not a fan of like when people do stuff like that. It's like, you're trying to get on a show that she's on, that she stars on. She's been starring on for years. She's like a fan favorite at this point. So calm it down a little bit. Emma, welcome. We've got a live recap of some of the older seasons of Teen Mom 2 coming up again tomorrow. So hopefully you'll be able to join us for that. Thank you so much for joining. So there wasn't really too much like going on in the barbecue scene outside of all of that. Also, by the way, Chrystal also dragged the other girls and claimed that, you know, like, you know, not them explicitly, but like implicitly that they were dressing too young for their age. She's like, wow, all these people dress very colorful. By the way, this is where Kathy's dumbass asked Garcelle if she's Kyle. She's like, oh, I thought you were Kyle. Look how close she's standing to her. And you thought she was Kyle, you know? So anyway, Chrystal also says that, the girls kind of are dressing too young for their age. And again, I was like, do we really need the ageism here? Do we really? I feel like just let women have fun, especially in a quarantine or whatever, in Corona era. People want to wear bright colors. They want to hug. They want to see their friends. They want to do all of these things and just not really be judged for it. I felt like that was a little bit unnecessary as well. I kind of get mean girl vibes from Chrystal, and I hope that I'm wrong, because I really, really want her to be like my new fave. Like I really do. Like I liked her so much before I even saw her in video or anything like that. And I want her to be someone that I continue to like. So in the last little thing, all the girls kind of gather around at this party and talk about how sad the virus has been for them. And I'm really curious, you guys, did you find yourselves kind of being a little bit dismissive of their feelings or no? I have to say that, on the one hand, I get it. Like this has been hard for all of us. But on the other hand, it's like, especially listening to Erika, she's like, I've got nothing to do. I'm just hanging around by my house. I'm wearing nice things because I want to. It's like, well, here you are, like at your house, bored because you don't have to work, because you don't have to worry about bills, because you don't have to worry about XYZ. And for fun, you are trying on, beautiful, really expensive, thousands of dollars worth of clothes, right? So it's a lot different from like regular people. And then it's like your house is also what, like 15, 20,000 square feet. You've got a massive pool. You've got like all these extra areas. You know what I mean? Some of these people have tennis courts, basketball courts. They could have personal trainers coming in, yoga outside. They've got multiple homes. They could be switching around between homes. So like, although I get it and I empathize with them on a certain level, on the other end, I'm kind of like, I don't like when people say we're all in this together as if it is the same level of, what I mean? Like it's very different for all of us at the end of the day. Same thing with Dorit. Dorit, you've got an entire teacher hired for your children. You've dedicated an area of your house specifically for a preschool or whatever for your kids. It's not you juggling your job and teaching these kids and, XYZ, grocery shopping, cleaning up the house, all of these things. Like you've got a person for all of these things. So it's not the same level, but I do get it nonetheless. We all are, regardless of income, struggling at this point. But thankfully, the light is the light is around the corner of the tunnel. Yes. We're there. None Your Business also says Chrystal is going to be the wannabe LVP and will want to wear the crown. I'm getting that vibe too. She's coming in very, very hot. Right now, I went from being excited and loving her to kind of getting the mean girl vibes from her and being a little bit on the fence. Hopefully she'll get me back next week because I really do want to love her. I truly do. LMNOP says, can you make a video on Chrissy Teigen? It's funny you asked that because I was sitting down to make a video and I completely forgot to do it about how she got dropped by Bloomingdale's. I'm really glad that her time has finally come because she's always been nasty for sport and it's never been cute to me. And I'm glad that she's finally being checked for it. Anyway, you guys, that does it. A recap of what went down on the debut episode of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills season 11. So thank you so much for hopping on and sharing all of your opinions live with me. It was so much fun to talk about them with you. I am very much looking forward to talking with you guys every week about what goes on. I'm going to try to keep it within the same kind of time frame. Noon to 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time for when you guys are like on your lunch breaks or what have you, or maybe go a little bit later depending on what kind of works. We're going to kind of figure it out as we go along. Again, thank you so much for being here, you guys, and I will see you in my next videos. Take care.